questions for Coach Bicknell, Greg?
Okay, Coach, I'm sure we'll get into BC stuff here in a little bit. But start with, you know Rich from 1 year at Mississippi together. Your philosophies, how they meld with his offense, how different is what he does for an offensive lineman?
Very similar. It's first of all, I love tempo because that tires out D-line. A lot of times it makes them more simple because they can't get everything. And for sure, if you're disguising one side and bringing a blitz the other way, they can't do that if we're going fast. So it's a very friendly offensive line system, I believe, and it's a very similar system to what I've been in for many a year now. Rich came and joined us. Phil Longo had left to go to North Carolina. Matt Luke was still the head coach when Rich came in, and it was a very, very similar scheme. There was almost seamless transition into what he does from what we were doing. So, but I just love it as an O-line coach because, the tempo, we're very simple, and yet we're diverse enough where we can hit anywhere on the field. So it's exciting to be back with him, and it's something that I'm really looking forward to.
Is it an oddity that you're blocking for all these left-handed quarterbacks?
Yes. I the first time ever.
Yeah.
I mean, been doing it since 1986. First time, even two left-handed quarterbacks. I'm not even sure I had one.
Well, now Rich says with the shotgun, you don't really have a backside anymore, so that's not an issue anymore.
No, it really isn't. That's what. When I was in the NFL, people would say, "Well, he's a right tackle." I'm like, what difference does it make? We're in the shotgun. Right. If my read is over here, that's my blind side, and so I never understood that. But yeah, you're right. There's things that, as a play caller, maybe you got to be. Maybe we don't want to, roll out to the right and naked. Maybe we want to roll out more to the left. I don't know. That's up to Rich. But it is very unusual.
You mentioned the tempo, and you're still kind of figuring the team out. But what attributes does an offensive lineman have to have success with you and in Rich's system?
Yeah, first of all, you got to be in shape. I mean, you can't be one of these big, fat, sluggo guys just kind of, waddling around. That's not going to work. You're not going to get past the film eval to begin with. You know what I mean? So we need to have athletic linemen that are in shape, that can run, that can press the tempo, and we're going to do a lot of pulling and things of that nature. So we need to have guys that are athletic. I would say twitchy, can come off the ball. Those are the things I think Rich is looking for. Obviously, that's what I'm looking for also.
What do you think of your group so far, individually?
Yeah, I mean, it's the fourth day. It's only the second day of pads, so that's even hard for me to remember. But, it's so it's still early. And the thing about the O-line, and I'll tell you this, we're seeing plenty of stuff on defense, which is great because I would rather feel the pain in practice rather than feel the pain in the game. So, I like it better in practice where you see all kinds of things. We got to communicate. We got to, it challenges us in that way. That way, once we get to the game, it almost seems like it's boring, So, but, I'm anxious to see this tape. I haven't even seen this tape yet, So, O-line is you go and make mistakes, you come in and fix them. Then you make mistakes the next day, but then they put in another defense. You got to make mistakes on that, then you fix them. So it's a process that you have to go through. So, but I've been impressed with the guys, and I know this. They're a very willing group. They want to be coached. They want to play hard, and I think that's what we're trying to show them. When coaches talk about the hard edge, what does that really mean? Like, everybody can talk about it. What's the big deal? But you got to live it and you got to do it. And we're trying to push them to that level.
Did you have enough snappers? Obviously, you can know right now who's doing well and who's snapping well, and if bad snaps, that's obvious.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's always we have to cancel the game if you can't snap the ball. So, I mean, it's usually when you look out there, I got like 7 guys doing at least, maybe 8, maybe 9. I make everybody snap. And then we'll start to hone in on, okay, who are the top guys? This guy can definitely do it. And then you might have a starting left tackle that's a backup center. Who knows? Those are things that we have to determine. But it is important that we're able to snap the ball.
What's a good number that makes you feel comfortable going into a game?
Well, for sure, 3. You always want to have 3 centers. And then a fourth one is just in case, you know. But the funny thing is the NFL, you don't have that. You know, you have two, max, you know. So you get a comfort level in college. But I always wanted to go in with 3 tackles, 3 guards, and 3 centers that I knew were like starters. You know, if you can get that, then you're in pretty good shape.
I read an article about you from your time up at Wisconsin, and they described you as a bit of a player's coach. Can you talk a little bit about what goes into your individual coaching style and how it meshes with Coach Rodriguez's hard-edge mentality?
Yeah, I mean, you know, I think it's, I mean, what is a player's coach? I don't know. You know what I mean? You're certainly going to care for your players, you know, but you're going to push them hard. And it's my dad, when I got the head job at Louisiana Tech, I said, what's the one bit of advice? He said, treat every player like they're your own son, you know, and I always try to keep that in mind. Now, my own son will tell you I wasn't just, you know, telling him everything he wanted to hear, or, you know, not trying to demand excellence out of him, you know. So I want to make sure the players know that we truly do care about them, but also we're going to push you to be the highest level you can be, and we're not going to accept anything but your best. And that's exactly what Rich Rod does too. You know, he is not going to accept someone to be less than what they can be, because if you do that, then that's bad for everybody. You know, the team's not as good, he's not as good, and we're not going to allow that to happen. So we're going to push these guys, demand excellence out of them, and then you know, I try to tell my guys, I was in the NFL for 7 years, and everybody wants to go to the NFL. Let's make it like that. Like, motivation is not a thing in the NFL. You come motivated. You come ready to go. So as long as you do that and we play hard every snap, then I'm just going to coach you up just like I did at that level, you know. So, but, yeah, I mean, who knows? I'm a player's coach and no longer there. And part of the reason was my relationship with the players. So you figure that out. So who knows?
Did he encourage you to be a coach, or did he say do something different?
No, he said do something different. Yeah, I mean, no. He's like, please don't do this. No, you know, he sort of said that, but you know, he knew it was a great life. And, I mean, heck, I had no chance. I was going to be a coach. You know, all my mentors, everybody I looked up to my whole life were coaches, you know, and including my dad, you know. So I had one little flirting thing, like my dad's like, there's a new company out in San Francisco you could go work at, because I knew Bill Campbell, who I don't know you guys. I'm like, what's it called? Apple. I'm like, that's stupid. I'm not doing that, you know. So I went right into being a GA, making $300 a month. So.
Did your mom have any input in that?
Oh yeah, I mean, you know, I don't think she wanted me to go to San Francisco. I could tell you that, but you know, it was. I don't even know if my poor mom, she never even knew about football, and she lived and died her whole life. You know what I mean? The same thing. I'm doing the same thing to my girls. You know, and it's people don't realize how serious it is for these families. You know, and they can't help it. They want their dad to do good. I know Raquel's in here. I'm sure she's lived it. You know what I mean? And you really do. You live and die with these teams for sure.
First time you got to Morgantown, do you have anything thrown at you?
Yeah, no. This is nothing thrown at me. You know. Maybe when I was at BC we did, you know. Oh, that's what you're talking about. I got you. I thought you meant first time as a coach.
First game here.
Oh, yeah. Well, you know, one of the hardest things, who would have thought, you know, 1982, over 40 years later, and we would have never beat West Virginia, and I would be at West Virginia. And Rich Rod, who played against me, would be able to rub this in for the rest of my life, you know what I mean? It's a very difficult thing, for sure. I mean, not only that, if you just press that ball out there, it goes right on a big screen, you know, so it's like, oh, my God. Of all teams never to beat, and we didn't beat West Virginia.
You guys accomplished with Flutie and beating in the Orange Bowl, all of that, and figure Morgantown, West Virginia would have been your Alamo.
No, you know, yeah, it's tough. It's tough to live with, man. Can't go back now. I mean, 0-5. 0-5.
But you can confirm things were thrown.
Oh, yeah. Oh, God. I forget. I remember one game. I don't know what was going on. My dad was a head coach. Everybody knows that. But somebody comes in, coach. And I don't know, some kind of ruckus going on outside. I don't know what. And we lost. People were still mad at us. You know what I mean? Like, just let us get out of here. You know, but something happened after the game. I don't know. People were coming on the field or something. I don't know. But, yeah. It really, I mean, it still stings a little bit. I'm not gonna lie, you know. And Coach Rodriguez never lets a moment go by where he can't zing me, you know, again. You know what I mean? And but it is pretty amazing. I mean, we're out there. We're up 20-0. I don't know anybody over a certain age remembers it, right? Yeah, and we were probably cost us a national championship that year, and we're up 20-0, and ended up losing the game.
I was at that game running around on the field.
Yeah.
Jack, would you give me about 1,000 words on Doug Flutie and playing with him and the past and why he never beat West Virginia?
The last part I have no idea. You know, that's just unbelievable to me. And, you know, that's a great credit to West Virginia, really. I mean, let's face it. We beat everybody, Alabama, Clemson, Miami, you name it, except for West Virginia. I mean, there's not another person he didn't beat, you know. So, believe me, if Doug Flutie was here, he'd be upset too, you know. But he was to me, he was just magic. You know, he's absolute magic man. I mean, just to be able to, I mean, before he got there, Boston College was nothing. It was just a little regional school, you know. Nobody even heard of us. We never even played any big teams. I mean, we played Penn State maybe every now and then, you know, but certainly never beat them. And then when he came, and we had some good players. You know, I wasn't necessarily one of them, but we had other good players around him. But he took guys like me to heights that I would never have thought I could possibly, you know, go. I mean, just, you know, the bowl games and the beating the great teams, beating Alabama down there, beating Clemson. You know, it was just such a great experience. And he was just, I mean, he's 5'9". I mean, it's never happened again. I don't know when it will happen. But to get a guy like that, it was just, you know, and then just an example of his leadership on the Hail Mary deal. I had basically given up. I'm like, well, it was a good shot, you know. And I remember he got wherever we were, but he got in the huddle. He said, "Hey, everybody, look at me. We just got to get this across midfield so I could put one up in the end zone." So right away, everybody's like, "Okay." I didn't know it was going to be that easy. And so everybody kind of had a plan, you know, and that's just, to me, that shows true leadership. And he was somebody that, you know, to me, he was the best quarterback ever. I don't care. I mean, I'll argue it till the day I die.
Did your dad know what he had in him, or did he figure that out quickly when he recruited him, or did he tweak things to say, this guy can do this?
Yeah, you know, it's funny because, no, he didn't know what he had, you know, but, you know, he trusted the high school coach, Tom Lamb, said to my dad, look, this guy's special, I'm just telling you, you know, and they offered him a scholarship, great athlete, you know, so we're going to offer him a scholarship. To say that he was going to be the Heisman Trophy candidate, but I remember we went down to the Shriner game. It was like an all-star game. I played high school football in Maine, so I was sitting next to my dad during the Massachusetts all-star game. And, you know, he just kept watching Doug, and he goes, in the fourth quarter, he goes, guess what? We got ourselves a quarterback, you know. So he knew it then. And then we played Pitt, I remember one year. Dan Marino looked like he was 7 feet tall. And it was Flutie's first. By the way, Doug never got nervous about anything. Like, it was just amazing. Like, I'd be ready to pass out, and he'd be like, oh, yeah, no big deal. But I remember after the game, we lost a close one to Pitt. And my dad didn't seem as bummed out as he always did. You know what I mean? It was kind of weird. I was like, because, you know, and I said, I must have said something like that. He said, well, I'll tell you what, we're not going to lose too many more games. You know what I mean? I can tell you that. And he was right, you know. So it's a process, but you start to figure out what you have.
Was the message to you as a player and a coach, don't underestimate somebody, don't just judge them by what you see?
Oh, yeah. I mean, absolutely. You know, and also you got to be careful because every 5'9" quarterback from then on is going to be the next Doug Flutie. Well, that's, you know, you got to be a little careful of that too. But that's the whole trick to recruiting. You know, it's even with the old line, you know, it's such a projection game. And a lot of it just depends on what they have in their heart and how competitive they are. And that's why you see people make mistakes even in the NFL level, you know, just guys that were 7th-round picks end up being the best players they got or whatever. And it's obviously happens in college.
Coaching that you've done on different levels and the years of experience you have, what hasn't changed? What are the important things you've got to have from your linemen?
Really interesting question, because a lot of things obviously have changed, but the locker room, the meetings out on the field, the game has not changed in 40 years. You know, it really hasn't. I mean, 45, 46 years if you count me playing, or 50 or whatever it is. But the game itself hasn't changed. I don't think the players have changed that much. I think, you know, they're still competitors. It still teaches the same lessons. It's still, you know, it's still the great game it's always been. What has changed is everything outside of that. You know, like, and to the detriment, I think, of the, you know, the transfer portal. Well, if it doesn't work out, I'm just going to go somewhere else. Well, I was a linebacker and got moved to center at 220 pounds. I would have been the absolute guy to get in the portal, but I didn't really have that choice. And so I just went to work every day and got bigger and stronger, and then I started for 2 years at center, you know what I mean? So, but, you know, it's the same great young men. It's the same great lessons that can be taught. And it's still the same great game, the actual game of football.
And then in terms of teaching technique, the actual play of the game, a couple things stand out for you as most important?
Yeah, you know, that hasn't changed that much either. You know, I mean, obviously there's, you know, the fundamentals of the game really haven't changed. Tackling, blocking, get lower than him, keep your hands inside. I mean, that's been since I was in 8th grade. I know that. And let's face it, it's really not going to change unless human beings change, and all of a sudden, you know, I mean, that's going to be leverage, you know. So, yeah, not a lot has changed, even in that sense. A little bit more passing, maybe you could say. You know, different. I mean, I thought I did all these things. It was all turn back protection. I turned here and hope, if there was nobody in that gap, I didn't have to do anything, you know, which was probably why they did that. But, yeah, so it's funny. Everything outside is totally different. But the actual game in the locker room, on the field with those players, hasn't changed much, in my opinion.
Yeah, kind of continuing on that, but going back to what you said about being a player's coach in Wisconsin and all that, that's such a particular position to coach. Like, there's a tactic you have to have, but they can just leave and just do something else. How much different is the actual coaching of what you say and how you say it and how you connect with people? And I don't know if it's how we, like, Steady had to do with every person the same, or do you have to treat everybody differently because it's so variable now?
Yeah, I think you have to treat everybody differently. You know, I mean, if you're a smart coach, I mean, if a guy's going to totally go in the tank as soon as you raise your voice to him, why are you doing that? You know, you're going to have to get it across to him in a different way. There might be a guy who could care less, you know, and then you can yell at him a little bit more. But, you know, I mean, to me, it's look, there's a certain way of doing this. We have to do it this way. I can show it to you on tape. Like, if it's not on film, then it's not real. But I can show you everything we're doing on tape. And by the way, when you get to the NFL, this is how you're going to be coached, because I just came from the NFL previously, you know what I mean? So, you know, but to me, I enjoy my players. I like being around them. That's why I do this. I mean, I hope that I'm able to have an influence on a young man at a critical point of his life, let's face it. From these 4 years that you can spend at West Virginia can set you up for the rest of your life or not, you know what I mean? So it's a blessing for me to be able to be a part of that for them. And it's not always telling them what they want to hear, and it's not always, you know, it's pushing them. But so, yeah, I mean, there's a very distinct way of doing things. That's the way we're going to do it. And we're going to do it with a hard edge and strain. Coach talks a lot about strain. I've always talked about that even before I knew Coach. You know, we're going to strain, in meaning we're going to take every ounce that we have to protect the quarterback and to run the ball. And if we do that, we'll be in great shape.
Richard was talking a little bit about the eagerness and the attitude that the offensive line has so far and how he really values that. Can you talk a little bit about, from your perspective, what you think so far of their kind of like their attitude and how they're approaching spring ball?
Yeah, their attitude's great. You know, and let's face it, I've been blessed. I mean, the O-line, everywhere I've ever been, greatest guys. You know what I mean? I just love them to death. And we don't get the ball, so we can't be really selfish because nobody gives us anything. You know what I mean? You guys go down there, we'll call you when we're ready, you know. So just love the group. They are eager. They are trying. And, you know, like I said, it's a process for us. Each day we got to go get things fixed. And like Coach Rod says, like, we can't miss a day and, like, not fix that because then we got something else to fix the next day. We got to get everything fixed, you know, and you can make mistakes, but let's get it fixed, and then we can move on to the next thing.
You mentioned how you handle the center spot, getting a lot of different people there. Do you cross-train at all the other spots as well, mix some extra guys?
Yeah, I mean, that's for sure. You know, you want to have guards that can play tackles. You want to have centers that can play guards, you know, for sure. And you know, so right now it's still early. So we're just trying to get a unit together and guys understanding and, you know, but very shortly we'll start moving people around a little bit so that we have some flexibility as we continue to learn who these guys are.
Is that something you do early on, or is it has experience? Do you trust more experienced guys to do that? Or
Yeah, definitely. You'd rather keep, if a guy just showed up, you'd rather keep him there, you know. And if a guy's, and some guys struggle to do it, and you're not going to be able to do it with him, you know. It's simple as that. But even the left and the right thing. You know, I can't have a guy that says, well, I'm only a left guard. No, you're going to be a right guard, too, if somebody gets hurt, you know what I mean? So.
How big of a deal is it to have a quarterback competition? And obviously that might not be decided even until fall or beyond. How does that matter to you and what you're coaching rather than if you had an incumbent who was there that you could build a relationship with?
No, I think it doesn't make a difference. I'm going to build a relationship with all those guys, you know what I mean? And you know, I think a quarterback competition is always great. It means you got competition. That means you got a couple of guys or 3 guys or 4 guys. I don't know. I mean, I haven't paid a lot of attention to the quarterbacks, believe it or not, just because, you know, I got 5 guys out there trying to figure out what they're doing. But I do see some big physical guys, and you know, I'm smart enough to see a ball thrown that looks good, and I can see guys that can run. So I think there's some real positives there. But no, as far as I've always been close to quarterbacks. I mean, let's face it, we got to work closely together, protection-wise and everything like that.
Last thing here, you work with a lot of guys. What makes Rich unique?
You know, I think I just think that Rich is extremely intense. You know what I mean? It's funny, like, I feel like every assistant coach should go be a head coach and then come back and be an assistant again. You know what I mean? So when you're the head coach, there's a lot of dynamic personalities on a football team, and he's trying to get everybody going in that way. You know what I mean? So I just think his intensity with how he brings it every single day to work, and his ability to make people rise up, you know what I mean, and you know, just get that wave going, and the ability to inspire people and push people to become the best people they can be. And I think the great head coaches do that, but I think Coach Rod may be one of the best, you know, at doing that, you know, and it's not always, you know, I mean, he's going to push you and he's going to be intense every day. And even as coaches, you know, if he says, the thing I love about Coach Rod, he's going to tell you right then and there something he doesn't like. I love that. Thank you very much. Because now I know if he's not talking to me, he doesn't have a problem with me. You know what I mean? And I love that about him. And then, you know, he always just moves on to the next thing. I'll think he's mad at me, and he's like, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? So he's really a lot of fun to be around. It's funny, very funny man. It's hard to, you know, it's hard to see sometimes, but he's got a great sense of humor. The players love him, and we love him. And so, you know, it's exciting for me to be back with him. I got a lot of loyalty to that guy. I could be 62 years old out fishing somewhere right now. I don't want to be fishing. So, you know, I would take a bullet. I said I wouldn't die, but I'd take one in the leg for him or something like that, you know. Yeah, in the leg.
We have one more, right?
Yes, sir.
Mike?
Sorry, that was good. You said what's front side, what's back side now. Rich said that, I think early on, that left guard, left tackle, pretty much the same. Right guard, right tackle, pretty much the same. That might strike some people as unusual because the positions are different, jobs are different, inside, outside. How unique, how useful is that for what you all do?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's great. I mean, it's like I said, you know, there used to be back in the day, well, he's a left tackle because he can pass protect, but he's not quite as strong. He's a right tackle because he doesn't pass protect as well, but he's physical. You know, all of that stuff is out the window now, you know, and with the shotgun and the things we do, I mean, everybody's got to be able to move, pull left and right. You know, we'll pull tackles, we'll pull guards, you know, so, you know, in that sense, it's a good thing because it makes it a little bit more, hey, I can move this guy around, you know, a little bit easier. So I think it's a good thing, and it's exciting that I think we've got some guys that can fit the bill, and we're just continuing to work through this, and as we get going, it'll become more and more apparent. Like I tell them all the time, I don't set the depth chart, you guys do. So don't blame me, because, I mean, I really don't. I mean, by the time you're done with this spring and then certainly the fall, everybody in that room knows who should be the starters. And you know, that's why they set the depth chart, so.
Okay, thank you, Coach.
All right, thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys. Ladies, don't forget the ladies.